Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. This Rabbits Breakdown video is for episode 5, season 1, Priesthood 1. This is part 2 of that episode. Before we get into this, I want to show off my new t-shirt. I picked up a Rabbits t-shirt off their website. Here, let me take these headphones off real quick. And the back has the Hazel quote. I don't know if I can get it on camera. The Hazel quote is, "We want the future we were promised, not the one that we deserve." Hope that came out. I can't see behind myself, so I don't know. And I'm not going to take my shirt off for the podcast, for this breakdown. That is something, trust me, that's nothing you want to see. So I chose a tie-dye simply because that's the whole groove I get when I've been to Seattle. My mom was born and grew up in Seattle. I've been there a couple times, so yeah, it's kind of a thing. Plus the fact most of my shirts are black, gray, dark green, or dark blue. So I figure something a little bit of color would be nice. So let's get into it.
So, Monica Morelli had been playing rabbits and believed that she was being followed by mysterious men in gray. She had conflicting copies of my parents' death certificates in her purse, a photo with the word Gatwick written beneath it, and she was investigating a discrepancy in the stained glass of a famous church. What was she looking for? What was the connection with my parents? I'm going to continue to try and dig up more on Monica Morelli. But in the meantime, there were two new developments. First, I did manage to find some information on the Gatwick Institute via that photograph.
See, her talking about what was this journalist Morelli looking for. I don't know if that is an easy question to answer in any regards, because I know, like, when I go out hiking, I take my camera and all kinds of stuff with me looking, but when I go out and I start down the trail, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for until I find it. So it's 6 one way, half dozen the other.
And second, another mystery application made an appearance. Unlike Cat Chat, which suddenly appeared out of nowhere on my laptop, this one popped up on my phone. It was called Breadcrumbs. First, the photograph. I found the building in that photo by scrolling through endless pages of research facilities and eventually landing on a match. It took hours. The structure in the photograph.
Now, I have done similar things like that. Get rabbit hole myself, which is kind of convenient since how we're listening to a podcast called Rabbits. That you just get going and going and going, and when you find something, it's like huzzah! But I can relate to that experience. I think that's what makes this podcast so enjoyable, at least for me, is because I can relate things that I've done not at the grand scale of this podcast, but we've done it. You can relate to it. You have that rudimentary experience, and it helps in the enjoyment of the podcast.
It was called the Carlsberry Building. I wasn't able to track down the name of any company that might be leasing the space, or information on the current owner, but it was definitely the building in that picture. The Carlsberry Building was located in the Bay Area, just outside of San Francisco. There was mention of Gatwick on another page, but it was a dead end. Nothing but a passing reference from 1986.
Now, I have had that exact same problem probably 8-9 years ago. I was doing a lot of research into Renaissance rapier manuals and rapier masters. And some of them that seem to be real popular and stuff, you go so far, then you hit like a brick wall. It's just another one of those connections between the podcast and the what's going on in real life. It's just cool.
Another few hours of research resulted in some additional information. The Gatwick Institute appeared to be located in a few buildings over the years, all of them based in or around San Francisco. It looks like they were active in the 70s and 80s, but I couldn't find any evidence of the Gatwick Institute operating outside of that time period.
This, not so much in the podcast itself, but in the novel, the whole 80s thing, growing up in the 80s, kind of reinforces the whole Generation X thing. And it's just something that it's kind of, I find enjoyable.
It appeared to be some kind of medical research facility / self-help spa retreat, promising peace of mind and body. I managed to dig up a few ads looking for research subjects, but other than those ads and a seemingly defunct website at gatewickinstitute.com, I haven't been able to uncover much at all. But I'm going to keep looking. I've had even less luck researching the strange application that had appeared on my phone. The icon was an old house in the woods, Hansel and Gretel style. I did a reverse image search, but nothing came up. I searched the term breadcrumbs app as well.
I just wonder if that Hansel and Gretel thing that she looked up was actually like a Thomas Kincaid type painting. Just throwing that out there.
Nothing related there. So I went on the App Store to get the designer's contact info. Nothing. Google Play? Nothing. In fact, there was nothing anywhere.
I love the fact that they mentioned Google Play by name because it's one of the outlets in which you can find the Rabbits podcast. It's just, I don't know if there's any kind of funding or anything going on there, or if they just did it because Google happens to carry their podcast.
There was an app on my phone that didn't exist. So, of course, I opened it.
And I am guilty of not necessarily having mysterious apps show up on my computer, but I'm extremely, I do this on my phone too. I'll see an app, just see its name, then download it, have no clue what that app's for, and open it just to see what it does, just because the name intrigued me. And that's just something I'm guilty of doing, and it's led to a lot of frustration in my wife because she's had to come back and clean up, because some of them have just been virus traps or stuff like that, and my wife's had to clean my hard drive and my phone up. And yeah, she gets irritated when I do stuff like that.
It was a fairly simple interface. It looked like Tumblr, actually. Text, pictures, video, 3 tabs. There was nothing in the text or video sections, but when I tapped on the picture icon, an image came up. It was a graphic, a circle above a pyramid. It had a kind of Illuminati vibe, but that wasn't what I first thought when I saw it. The first thing that popped into my mind was Berserk. To be more specific, the Atari 2600 home version of the popular video game Berserk by Stern Electronics of Chicago.
Now, you can Google that image, but it does, especially a lot of the fan art. If you go into Google and you Google Rabbit's Podcast fan art, that particular versions of the triangle with the circle are kind of very Illuminati-esque and some of them are rather kind of creepy. You know, they just kind of, they're really good, really great pieces of art, but they just kind of send that cold chill down your spine.
My brother had become interested in Easter eggs in video games. Obsessed with Easter eggs in video games would actually be more accurate. The first place he found this symbol, the circle floating above the pyramid, was in Berserk. He subsequently discovered that symbol in at least 5 other games. The arcade console versions of Zaxxon, Wonder Boy, and Miss Pac-Man, and the home versions of Myst, The Legend of Zelda, and Microsoft Flight Simulator 4.0.
I had a Microsoft, back in the day, a Microsoft Flight Simulator. I mean, it was all line graphics, very rudimentary, but it was fun because the joy we got into intentionally crashing into things.
He had a theory that the symbol was related to something like The Secret by Byron Price, the puzzle book Treasure Hunt from 1982 that I mentioned in our first episode. My brother thought that maybe the appearance of the symbols was related to a real-world treasure hunt, and that the context of each symbol may have been significant. So he collected all of the information he could about what else was on the screen along with the pyramid and sphere. To my knowledge, he was unable to figure out what the appearance of that symbol meant. The appearance of that symbol on my phone brought me right back into my brother's bedroom, staring at his cork bulletin board filled with clues and possible connections between those games. I didn't feel like there was any possible way I was going to solve a mystery my brother spent years trying to figure out.
And the thing is I don't think, or at least from my experience with listening to this podcast, that they give a real definitive answer to what the triangle, the circle above it means. They give some really good possibilities and how some people use it, but I don't think there's a definitive answer given.
But then I remembered that I had access to something my brother didn't. I had access to the magician.
Of course I've seen it before. It's the moonrise.
What's that?
It's what those participating in the game refer to as a marker.
Okay, so what does it mark?
Well, I like to think of them as signposts, letting you know you're on the right path, that you should be vigilant for the next clue or gateway.
Okay, so you like to think of them as signposts.
That's right.
Is there maybe another interpretation?
Yes.
What is it?
Some players believe these symbols are warnings.
Warnings?
Yeah, indicators that you might be close to stepping off the playing field.
What playing field?
The world. The moon.
That is kind of foreboding in and of itself. The whole concept of stepping off the world. I mean, you could be anything from move to a different realm of existence or parallel universe via the Mandela effect, and or death. It's, don't know.
Rise was specific to 6 and 7. There was no mentions of any appearance in 8. You say you didn't install this application yourself?
No.
It's very interesting.
What do you think it means?
I'm not sure. Do you mind if I dig around on your phone a bit?
Dig around?
Jailbreak it.
Will I still be able to use my phone?
Of course.
Do it.
So, I let the magician jailbreak my new phone. He told me that he couldn't find anything directly related to that application or the symbol. He offered to remove or block the application, but I told him, no way. Whoever put it there was probably going to send something else.
And that is that is exactly how I would be thinking if it were me in that particular position.
I told him to leave it as it was. He smiled. I could tell that he was hoping I would say that. Just as I was about to leave, he asked me a question.
Did you follow the link to the website I gave you last time you were here?
I did.
And what did you think?
About what?
About Hazel.
Well, it looks like he or she was about to win 8, and then mysteriously dropped out and forfeited the game. And Hazel was apparently some kind of armchair revolutionary, responsible for a few cliches like, where's our future? Nothing but a bunch of philosophical blue sky platitudes.
And I would love for Terry Miles to do a Hazel specific story, or do the story of Hazel playing rabbits. I think of all the supporting characters that I think deserve their own either podcast or novel or something, I think Hazel is the one that intrigues me the most.
You're a bit too cynical for someone so young.
Just a bit?
Rumor has it that the love of Hazel's life was helping him or her play the game. They were a perfect team, allegedly. They were apparently right near the end of the game, approaching the convergence when...
What?
She was killed.
Playing the game?
Yes.
How did she die?
A freak accident.
Tell me.
The emergency brake and transmission failed in a car. It skidded on some ice and ran into her while she and Hazel were out walking. She was pinned against a stone wall, and she bled out in Hazel's arms.
And the thing is, as you get deeper into this, especially in the 3-episode The Path, you start to realize that there's no such thing as freak accidents or coincidences in this universe.
That's terrible.
That's when Hazel quit playing.
I found a broken link to a picture. I think it might have been a photograph of Hazel.
There have been a few alleged photos of Hazel over the years, all of them fake. There was a woman in Stoke-on-Trent who was very close to the girl who died. We all believed she was Hazel for a few years. And then a young man in Boston.
What can you tell me about her, the girl who died?
Quite a bit, although none of it will be of any use.
And the wizard, being a rabbits player himself, would know this. Also, the magician I think would be really good in his own novel, podcast, whatever, just, seeing the game from his perspective. I think that would be really cool. Hazel is probably the most intriguing character, whereas the magician is just, at least for me, the most relatable supporting character. And I really like that character. And I think they use him just about the right amount to keep the mystery behind him.
He was right. There was a lot of information on the girl who died, and none of it shed any light on Hazel. Her name was Emily Masterson. She was an American living in England at the time of her death. She had a girlfriend in college, the woman the magician referenced earlier. She had a couple of live-in boyfriends after that, a stockbroker, a drummer. Then she dropped off the map, completely disappeared from public life for a few years before she died.
See, that is one of the things I really enjoy about this podcast is the inclusivity, the fact that sexuality within this universe, within this group of people within this universe, that things like race, sexuality, gender, all that are just accepted and incorporated and made part of just the regular life. You know, it's nothing unusual, nothing crazy, nothing foreboding or forbidden.
It was during this time that she'd, allegedly, been playing rabbits with Hazel. While I was in the Magician's Arcade, Jones sent me a message. He said that he'd found something else in those old Marigold radio recordings. What is it?
I think you should just listen.
Okay.
Call me back after you heard it.
The Keeper by an unknown author, for Doc Hornet. The garden world of Arcadia exploded in blood and pain every 89 days. Aside from that one day, the day of the sacrifice, Arcadia was a paradise, a community of joyful beauty, friends helping friends. Family was an unknown and unnecessary term in Arcadia. Everyone was family. Ivan IX had been working to stop the 89-day cycle, the temporary madness. It came over the garden sometime between sunrise and noon, and always ended after the first person was killed. At various times over the years, Ivan felt he had the answer, locking people up, drugging them, preaching the word of the holy kings, but nothing worked. Ivan was growing old, and he knew that it was only a matter of time before he was unable to protect himself or call upon some of the younger ones for help during the temporary madness. It was Ivan, the Keeper, who had been charged with looking into what the people of Arcadia referred to as that which must always be served. And it was Ivan who had failed them, like the Keeper before him and the one before that. It was on the evening before the 89th day that Ivan made up his mind. He was going to sacrifice himself for the good of the garden. He was going to make certain that he would be the first to die during the temporary madness, that his death would give his beautiful Arcadia 88 new days of peace, and another chance to find out how to end the temporary madness without losing one of the younger ones. The young man called the Third Paul would be the new Keeper. He was smart and kind, and Ivan knew the garden would be in good hands. In all the years of Ivan's lifetime, nobody had ever sacrificed their own life.
It makes you wonder, are the costs for paradise really worth it?
It was forbidden. This was another reason Ivan was dedicated to taking this path. You see, it wasn't only because he was old and weak and not long for this world. It was also because he felt like his sacrifice might make a difference. Perhaps Ivan's unselfish act might finally break the 89-day cycle and bring peace to his beloved Arcadia. So, just before the sun rose on the morning of the sacrifice, Ivan got up, dressed in his finest wool suit, and made his way to the center of the town square. He stood there, holding a knife, waiting for the madness to take him, waiting to make his personal sacrifice. And he did it. As the first ray of the morning sun hit his face, he slit his own wrists. His fellow denizens of the garden ran out of their homes to witness in horror what Ivan had done. And as he lay dying, he saw that none of them had gone mad. He was happy. His sacrifice had worked. He could die in peace, knowing that there was a chance for them to live without fear for a while. But no. The world had other plans. Terrible plans. This time, the madness was different. This time, it didn't end with the first death. This time, the madness was everything. Endless. The streets were red and then black with blood. By the time the last members of the Garden of Arcadia had been torn apart, the sun had still only barely risen above the horizon. Ivan was alive long enough to see every single person in Arcadia, old and young, ripped to ribbons of blood, flesh and bone, in a whirl of rage and madness, the likes of which the world had never seen.
Kind of a very eerie picture. And my own interpretation of it is possibly maybe the true meaning behind the triangle or pyramid with the circle above it. Representing, the triangle representation of either the town or Arcadia or the well with the sun coming, or maybe the man himself. Who knows?
As the light within him died, Ivan knew that it was him. He did this. And with that understanding, the final keeper died. And Arcadia, right along with him.
I'm going to go ahead and we're going to call this video good here. And like I said, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope the people that are watching it, I thank you for watching it. I thank the people that have subscribed to my channel. I like to thank the people over at Public Radio Alliance and Mental Beats Well for doing this awesome podcast. So, until next time, peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?